India, a country of contrasts where tradition meets modernity, but also where the rights and safety of women are often caught in the crossfire. Every day, the headlines remind us of the horrifying reality. A woman is sexually assaulted every 15 minutes. But behind each statistic is a name, a face, a story. Today, we explore the heartbreaking case of Dr. Abhaya, a young doctor whose life was tragically cut short in the heart of Kolkata. Dr. Abhaya was a 31-year-old second-year resident at the prestigious R.J. Medical College and Hospital in Kolkata. Known for her dedication, kindness, and ambition, she had spent years of her life studying medicine, a field she was passionate about. Her family, like many others, had pinned their hopes and dreams on her, seeing her as a beacon of light and pride. But her journey wasn't easy. Like many aspiring doctors in India, she had to conquer the National Eligibility Entrance Test, or NEET, a grueling exam where only the top 2% make it to government funded medical colleges. Dr. Abhaya had not only excelled but thrived, emerging from a lower middle class background to work in one of the country's top hospitals. Years of sleepless nights and tireless work had finally brought her to the brink of achieving her dream. But on the night of August 9th, everything changed. The life of a medical resident is grueling. Long hours, minimal sleep, and immense pressure are constants. Dr. Abhaya was no stranger to this. On August 9th, she was working her regular shift, a 36-hour marathon that left little room for rest. Yet, like many of her colleagues, she persevered, driven by her commitment to her patients and profession. She had spoken to her mother around 11 p.m., reassuring her that she would be fine. She ended the call with a simple request: please make sure Dad takes his medicine on time and don't worry about me. That call would be the last time her family ever heard from her. Hours later, after finishing her rounds and dinner with colleagues, Dr. Abhaya went to rest in a makeshift sleeping area in the third floor of the hospital. This hospital, like many others around the country, lacked proper on-call rooms, forcing doctors to sleep wherever they could find space. She lay down to take a nap in the seminar room in the early morning hours of August 9th, not knowing it would be her last. At around 9:30 a.m. the next morning, when she did not show up for her rounds as was her custom, a trainee doctor went to check on her. What he found was a scene of unimaginable horror. She was lying unconscious, semi-naked and unresponsive. The trainee immediately called for help, but it was too late. Dr. Abhaya had been brutally assaulted and murdered. The police were called, and by 10:30 a.m., they had arrived at the hospital. Yet, despite the severity of the situation, there was a troubling delay in contacting Dr. Abhaya's parents. When they were eventually informed, they were misled to believe that their daughter was simply unwell, only to be later told she had unalived herself. But the circumstances surrounding her death tell a different story, a story of brutal violence. What followed after the discovery of her body was even more shocking. Her injuries were horrific. Blunt force trauma to her forehead, shards of glass lodged in her eyes, and signs of strangulation and a violent struggle. These injuries were not consistent with self-harm. They were the clear result of a vicious attack. Yet, despite the overwhelming evidence, the initial police reports and statements from the hospital authorities painted a picture of suicide. The hospital's chief superintendent, Dr. Sandeep Ghosh, even criticized Dr. Abhaya for allegedly napping alone, as if blaming the victim for her own death. How could trained professionals overlook the signs of a vicious assault? Her father, after waiting for over 3 hours, was even forced to see her body in this degrading state, exposed and unattended for hours. As news broke of her murder, the hospital and police fumbled with their responses. The investigation was marred by delays, inconsistencies, and attempts to cover up the truth. Astonishingly, it took over 14 hours to file an official FIR. Then on August 10th, the police arrested a man named Sanjay Roy, a civic volunteer with a questionable past and alleged connections within the hospital and local police, based on CCTV footage showing him near the seminar room and a pair of Bluetooth earphones found at the scene connecting him to the murder. Initially, Kolkata police said that he had confessed to the murder, but he has since retracted his confession, claiming it was coerced. A lack of any concrete forensic evidence against him after nearly a month of investigation is concerning. But questions remain. Why did Sanjay Roy have access to the hospital? Why was he working with the Kolkata police when it was well known that he had more than one assault charge against him and numerous other complaints of misconduct? And more importantly, were others involved in this horrific crime? Dr. Abhaya's death has left us with more questions than answers. The brutality of her murder and the mishandling of the investigation point a disturbing picture of institutional negligence. Arjekar Medical College Hospital, where she worked, lacked even basic facilities for doctors, forcing them to rest in unsafe environments. What's even more disturbing is the backdrop of corruption and mismanagement within Arjekar Medical College. Allegations of mismanagement, sexual harassment, and even cadaver smuggling have surfaced, all under the watch of Dr. Sandeep Ghosh. It's clear that Dr. Abhaya was not just a victim of one man's violence, but of a system that failed to protect her. Protests have erupted all over the country, with students and fellow doctors demanding justice for Dr. Abhaya. Yet, disturbing developments, such as the destruction of a room near the crime scene just a day after her death, have led to growing concerns of a cover up. In the last few days, news of these protests being met with violence and threats of legal actions against the protesting doctors further highlight the lengths to which those in power would go to silence the truth. As of now, Sanjay Roy is the only one held responsible, but many believe that this is just the surface of a much deeper, darker reality. Dr. Abhaya's story is not just one of a life tragically lost. It is about a system that failed to protect her, failed to uncover the truth, and failed to deliver justice. For Dr. Abhaya's family, her friends, and her colleagues, the fight for justice continues. But will they ever get the answers they deserve? And more importantly, how many more lives will be lost before we see a real change in the system? As we end this video, let's remember Dr. Abhaya not just as a victim, but as a dedicated doctor whose life was stolen far too soon. Her story deserves to be told, and those responsible for her death must be held accountable. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep the conversation going and demand justice for Dr. Abhaya.